Hello. Today we're going to look at the theory of servant leadership. This is an interesting theory because it's strongly rooted in Christian teaching and uh, uh, the Christian conception of leadership. But we're going to see that in its modern form, the way that's presented in Northouse is the way that it was presented in literature. It's not especially Christian. It's just presented as like a really good idea, really excellent way for leaders to function. So I hope you find this to be a very interesting and useful conception of leadership. Now, servant leadership is the idea that a leader should serve other people. So it's kind of a paradoxical conception of leadership. You're supposed to serve other people and do what they want, do what's good for them, but also you're doing this to influence people so that they can accomplish the goals of the organization. Um, there's been a lot of interest in the last 20 years in servant leadership. A lot of times it's just prescriptive. This is the type of leaders that people want, so we should be servant leaders. Until recently, now people are starting to do research on it to see if it actually works, to see if it's beneficial to the organization. We don't have definitive answers yet, but we'll see. During the last 10 years, it's been refined, and some of the what actually does it mean to be a servant has been clarified a bit. It's still got a ways to go. And it's one of these theories that focuses on leadership from the point of view of the leader and his or her behaviors. So kind of like at the beginning when we were looking like at trait theory, things like that, which focused primarily on the leader. This theory also focuses primarily on the leader. But the big idea is that servant leaders put followers first. They're more concerned about the followers' interests than their own interests. Now, Jesus was the first one that came up with this idea. In Matthew 20, he said, talking to his disciples, Jesus called them to himself and said, "You know, the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them." They like dominating, they like controlling, they like directing. "And their great men exercise authority over them." Yeah, people have power, they're great leaders. "It's not this way among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you shall be your servant. And whoever wishes to be the first among you shall be your slave." So Jesus is saying what's really important isn't becoming this great, powerful leader. What really counts, if you want to be great in God's eyes, if you want to do what really matters for Him, is to serve other people, to love them, and do what's beneficial for them. So that's a lot different than the other theories that we've been looking. But in some ways, we've seen how important it is, the relationship between the follower and the servant. Now, the modern conception of servant leadership is developed by a guy named Greenleaf, who was not especially Christian. I've done some research on him, and he went to church for a while. But the idea of following Jesus and having this radical commitment to Him, that's the basis of Christianity, he wasn't so much into that. But he really liked the idea of servant leadership. And so he said, servant leadership begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve first. So he starts off with this idea that, we're made to serve, and we should have this desire to serve. Then conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. The idea that, if we want to serve other people, that might mean leading them. The difference manifests itself in the care taken by the servant. First, to make sure that the other people's highest priority needs are being served. So the servant leader is making sure that the people that he or she's leading are serving, their needs are being met. The best test is, do those served grow as persons? Do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become a servant? So are the people that are under my leadership, are they growing as a person? Are they developing? Are they becoming better people? And what is the effect on the least privileged in society? Will they benefit, or at least will they not be further deprived? How is it affecting the weak people? How is it affecting the people that are struggling in life? Is my leadership benefiting them? So Greenleaf, you can see the definition there. It doesn't really have anything to do with loving Jesus, loving God, wanting to serve others because God loves them, but it's rather that we should have this innate desire to serve others and to benefit others. Now, in the leadership literature, sometimes this is treated like a trait, something that's specific to different individuals. Other times it's just viewed as a behavior that people can choose to act upon or not. And in this textbook and in this lecture, we're going to view it as a behavior more than a trait. Now, there's various formulations of what actually is this servant leadership. What do people need to do to benefit people around them? And there's different lists, and you'll see them as you go through the textbook. Here's a list of 10 characteristics, which is fairly typical. We're not going to go into these in detail, but we'll see what do we have here. We've got listening, so the leader acknowledges the viewpoints of followers and validates their perspectives. That's one way of serving them. Empathy, the idea of feeling the same feeling that other people are feeling, seeing the things from their point of view, letting them know that we validate what they're experiencing, healing, helping people fix the things that are wrong or difficult in their lives, awareness, understanding oneself and the impact one has on others. You've got to be aware of what you're doing to other people if you want to serve them, so that you can evaluate whether it's really helping them or not. Persuasion, creating change through gentle, non-judgmental argument rather than threatening and making people feel bad, humiliating. We try to convince people of our point of view, and we ourselves are able to be persuaded also because our view might not be the best. Conceptualization, the idea to be a visionary for an organization, motivate people to want to move in a direction. Foresight, the ability to predict what's coming, and based on what's been happening in the past and what's happening in the present, so that we can benefit the followers. Stewardship, managing the resources and the people that we have. Commitment to the growth of people, and building community, which is a basic human need among the people that we're serving. So we've got a bunch of different ways of benefiting followers, and different theories say different things that are needed. Now, here's an example of 6 different formulations of servant leadership, and you can see they've all got a different list of what's necessary. Now, from a Christian point of view, we're going to say, well, what did Jesus have to say about this? He's God. He made people. He understands what humans' true needs are and how we should serve people. But other in the secular leadership have come up with different theories. Now, the basic model of servant leadership is we start off with antecedent conditions in the leader's life. There's the context and the culture. What are the needs of the people around us? What does the leader value? What can the leader actually do? What are his or her attributes? And follower receptivity. Do leaders want to be or do followers want to be helped by leaders? Or are they just kind of like concerned about getting away with much as they possibly can? In that case, servant leadership might not be the most appropriate. Then we've got the servant leader behaviors, like that list that we just went through. And this is what the theory is about, is that these behaviors, if they're done appropriately in light of the context of what's going on, are supposed to predict certain outcomes, like follower performance. They're supposed to be better workers. They're supposed to grow as persons. The organization is supposed to do better, and it's supposed to have a positive impact on society. Now, these outcomes go beyond what Jesus said. Jesus never said that your organization is going to do better if you serve your employees. It might be true, but it's not what Jesus said. Certainly, from God's perspective, if we're really serving people, they should grow as persons and especially grow in their awareness of need for God so that they grow in their faith for Him. But this theory, as presented in the secular literatures, is much more broad than what Jesus presented. So, how does a servant leadership supposed to be work? Is supposed to work? Well, first of all, it's concerned with putting followers first, and the outcomes are likely to emerge. That's the basic theories. Love on the employees, serve them, do good to them, and they'll work better, and the organization will do better. Now, this would work best when leaders are altruistic and genuinely care about other people, and they have a strong motivation to want to help and serve other people. Now for Christians, that should come naturally. We love because He first loved us. If we've experienced Jesus' love and His forgiveness and His power in our life, we should want to share that with other people. So for the Christian, servant leadership should be a natural outflow. It's kind of like a mandatory way of leading. For people who aren't Christians, who haven't experienced God's love, they got to have some other motivations for wanting to be altruistic and to help others. And then the idea is that by serving others, it results in community and society change. It changes the community of people in the organization that are under our charge, and then it also should benefit society as a whole. So what are some of the strengths of servant leadership? Well, it makes doing good, the idea of serving others, the central component of the leadership process. From a Christian point of view, that's really attractive. It it provides kind of a counterintuitive approach to the use of influence. Leaders should share control. They're letting the followers set the agenda because the followers are the ones that have needs. It's also should be one of the strengths is that servant leadership is not considered a cure-all. It's not doesn't try to present itself as well. This is going to be the way that every organization should be run. It's clear that when servants are not open to be guided, supported, and empowered, who want to work for the good of the organization, that servant leadership might not be the most effective. And there's research has also led to a pretty good measure of servant leadership. Now, it's not something that you can fill out yourself because we always think we have great motives and are doing things to serve others and that we're benefiting. But the servant leadership questionnaire, the SLQ, is for other people to fill out about the degree that you serve. So it has to be people that are under your leadership that fill out the servant leadership questionnaire so that you can find out how much you're serving people. Now, there's a lot of criticisms, too, because of the name. Servant leadership seems kind of contradictory, kind of whimsical, kind of wishful thinking, and some would say that's not really leadership. There's, as you can tell, there's not quite a total, there's not really a good consensus on what servant leadership actually is. What are the different components? Another problem is that the prescriptive overtone suggests that good leaders put others first and conflicts with other principles of leadership such as directing, concern for production, and things like that. It also sounds very moralistic, and it is moralistic. Jesus said, this is what is good. This is if you want to follow and please God, you need to do this. And so a lot of people steer away from, especially researchers who might not be especially centered on God. And then another criticism, which is really legitimate, is that there's not enough research that's been done to confirm that the outcomes really affect the desired outcomes of the organization, the part that goes beyond what Jesus says. Is it really beneficial for an organization to have servant leaders? So this can be applied on several different levels. First of all, anybody can be a servant leader at no matter what level of management or what type of organization that you're in. You can always seek the good of people that are that you have influence over. Now, another application is that organizations should be careful to select different sorts of select their employees. Um, the servant leader is concerned about the relationship. They're concerned about the community. They're concerned about the person. So you should hire people that are interested in building long-term relationships with followers, and then also that they have the strong ethical value that they want to do good for others. Because if they don't want to do good for others, if they're taking this job mainly for just for money or whatever reason, and they don't have this strong desire to help other people, it's not very likely that they're going to be servant leaders. So this is an overview of servant leadership. For the Christian, it's especially attractive. For many other people, it's attractive too. And as you go through the chapter and as you work through the exercises online, I hope that you find it really beneficial, the study of this topic.